Oh my God. Are you seeing this? Toph looks absolutely incredible. I'm so hyped up for June 25th when Avatar The Last Airbender finally drops its next chapter on Netflix. If the bending physics stay that crisp, we are in for an absolute masterpiece. But look, the hype train does not stop there. Literally the very next day on June 26th, Supergirl premieres, and I am ready to dive head first into that too. If you want a dedicated video essay on Supergirl, breaking down what they nailed, what they should have done, and how it stacks up to the classic comic lore, hit that subscribe button right now and let me know in the comments by saying, give me that Supergirl video. Because today we are breaking down Netflix's Avatar from my ultimate season 2 pacing wish list to a mind-blowing ancient prequel pitch that changes everything we know about the four nations. But before we get into the future of the lore, we have to talk about how the show handles the world itself. Because when it comes to adapting a legendary universe like this, there's only one major trap a lot of modern shows fall into, and that's trying to force our world realism where it just doesn't belong. Think about it this way. We really don't need our world realism here. The Avatar franchise has always done incredibly well without it, and trying to force it into this universe is just gonna get in the way of that magic. Now look, this isn't like the comic book adaptations that we talk about on this channel. For characters like Batman and Spider-Man, we've seen them in animation so many times across different mediums that when you bring them into live action, playing around with a bit of real world grit can actually be a fun twist. Those stories are still fundamentally tethered to our world, but Avatar is a completely different type of universe. It's a pure, unapologetic, high fantasy world built from the ground up on magic and spiritual lore. There's no New York here. Trying to make it feel gritty or realistic completely misses the point on why the original source material works. The only version of realism this show actually needs is its internal consistency. That's it. The magic just needs strict structural rules. If you are part of the Earth Kingdom, you bend Earth. If you're Fire Nation, you bend fire. Same with water, same with air. Keep the elemental science predictable and respectful of its own boundaries, and the world will naturally feel grounded. Beyond that, leave the real world behind. Let the bending remain completely spectacular, bright, and fantastical. And that brings us right into the incredible adaptations and timeline shifts we've been getting with Netflix. Honestly, if I'm rating season 1, I'd give it a solid 8 or 9 out of 10. Was it perfect? No, it took a little getting used to how they shifted the timeline around compared to the original animated series. But at the end of the day, it worked perfectly for the pacing. When you only have 8 episodes to capture the entire heart of book 1, you have to trim the fat. The cartoon had a luxury of extra episodes for episodic world building, but the live action format functions more like a massive expanded movie. It gives us that premium cinematic feel without wasting a single second of our time. So how they should handle the pacing for season 2? Here's my ultimate layout for how they can pull this off masterfully. First up, we need Appa's lost journey, but it has to be structured tightly. Instead of dragging it over several weeks, we can start the setup in the middle of like episode 4, when Appa gets stolen from the desert sandbenders. From there through episodes 5 and 6, Appa's struggle runs as a continuous high-focus B-plot. And here is where you could make a brilliant change to the lore. During his journey, Appa runs into Guru Patik, the monk who eventually helps Aang master the Avatar state in book 3. We could skip a couple of things amongst his way, including maybe even the boar fight. Now hear me out on this. Instead, the guru notices Appa's battle wound, takes him in, and heals him. He's the one that heals him. Keep that in mind. It's not Suki this time. We keep the classic, funny dynamic where Appa is growling and untrusting at first, but the guru slowly wins him over. By connecting them here, the guru can read Appa's energy, understand his spiritual bond with Aang, and send him off to Ba Sing Se with the message attached to his horn. It perfectly sets up the spiritual payoff for the next season. Meanwhile, the main A-plot is focusing heavily on Aang's emotional spiral over losing Appa in the first place. And this is how they can fix his bending timeline. In the original show, Aang accidentally burns Katara way back in book 1 with Zhang. This is how we change that. Netflix can still introduce Zhang this season, and it can be one episode, that's fine. While Aang is working through his intense anger and grief over Appa, he lets his raw emotions slip into his training. He tries to firebend, completely loses control, and accidentally burns Katara. He then has a vision of Roku, and Roku tells him this is why the Avatar must learn all of the elements as they were intended to be learned. With this, it forces him to channel all of his focus back into learning earthbending from Toph, the steady, rock-solid way. This all builds to a massive breaking point in episode 7, and this cliffhanger is going to be insane. The team splits up across Ba Sing Se. Katara is ambushed and captured by the Dai Li, and they throw her deep into the crystal catalogs alongside Zuko, who is also captured. While in prison, they look out and see Appa trapped in the same exact cavern complex under Long Fang's control. On the surface, Aang and Toph, they cross paths with Jet and the other freedom fighters. Toph uses her lie detector seismic sense to prove Jet is telling the truth about the Dai Li brainwashing, and they all team up to storm the catacombs. We can also make it to where Iroh joins the group, or he just happens to find his own way in, because he's Iroh. Sokka and Suki are off screen dealing with a semi-unrelated tactical distraction, leaving the core bending squad to drop into the caves. They locate the prisoners, but Azula and the Dai Li spring their trap. An absolute war erupts, and right at the peak of the battle, Jet takes that fatal blow from the Dai Li. He lies right there on the screen. All you hear is his breathing. As he takes each breath, you pan to each and every character. Aang, Katara, Sokka, Smellerbee, and on his final breath, it just cuts to black. The reason why I would end episode 7 that way is simply because it kind of pays homage to how they declared him dead but didn't technically say it. That sets up episode 8 to be an absolute non-stop finale of pure bending warfare. Azula makes her move, Zuko makes his choice, and Aang gets fatally shot down by Azula's lightning while trying to master the Avatar state. Now, if you're wondering how Katara saves him without the spirit water being explicitly set up in season 1, it's an easy fix for the premiere. Sokka can simply hand Katara a vial at the start of the season, explaining that Master Paku or Princess Yue's father gave it to him at the spiritual oasis, knowing that its mystical healing properties could protect them on their journey. She obviously then uses it in the final moments of episode 8 to bring Aang back from the dead as the Earth Kingdom falls. But the live action universe isn't the only thing we have to look forward to. Avatar Studios is cooking up a massive animated future, and I'm losing my mind waiting to see the adult gang back in action. But beyond the upcoming movie, we really need animated miniseries or feature-length adaptations of the companion novels. Seeing the legendary, brutal lives of Avatar Kyoshi and Avatar Yang Chen fully animated and high budget would be incredible. Not to mention finally getting an on-screen resolution to the mystery of Zuko's mom from the graphic novels. Now, as amazing as it would be to see those established stories brought to life, it also makes you realize how much untouched potential is still hiding in this franchise. Because when you look at the official timeline, there are thousands of years of history that the creators have left completely blank. And that got me thinking, what if we went all the way back to the very beginning? I have a pitch for the ancient prequel series that doesn't just fill in those blanks, it completely changes everything we know about the original 4 nations. And hey, shamalama ding dong, this is how you do an adaptation. We start the season by filling in some beautiful gaps in Wan's early days. Imagine seeing him right after he leaves the Lion Turtles trying to master fire. The show could explicitly set up the origins of the Sun Warriors, showing Wan discovering this small ancient tribe that worships the sun as its absolute source of fire. We can also see Wan learning how to move and bend directly from the dragons alongside them, practicing the very first version of the dragon dance. From there, we can just do age jumps, fast forwarding him into his years as a seasoned avatar. Now, this is where it gets good. Humanity has completely abandoned the protection of the lion turtles and coverage onto one massive supercontinent, a bending Pangea. Free from the turtles and spirit interference, mankind finally has the freedom to roam, experience the world, and build a life together. In the central area, kind of like a republic city, this is where Juan lives. Everything is peaceful, but as times go on, rumors start drifting in from edges of the continent. Left to their own devices, the different factions of humanity are turning at each other. Conflict starts breaking out, and it just keeps growing. No matter how powerful Juan is, his diplomacy has zero effect on the dark side of human nature. And as the years progress, and we're still age jumping, we would see the tragic generational splintering of the original nomads. At the start of the season, these ancient nomads naturally possess the ultimate subbending ability, true weightlessness, and unassisted flight. They can completely untether themselves from the world. But as the episodes jump forward in time and the global conflict worsens, many nomads chose to leave their spiritual roots behind to roam the changing world, where they eventually fall in love, they build families, and they begin accumulating worldly possessions. Piece by piece, these earthly attachments become the very tethers that drag them back down. So as they lose their spiritual purity, they lose the ability to fly. We'd watch this incredible godlike potential slowly fade away across the generations, becoming nothing more than a myth by the time the nomads finally settled down and build the 4 traditional air temples. It all leads to a devastating high-stakes finale, realizing humanity will completely destroy itself if they stay together on this Pangea. Juan makes the ultimate agonizing choice. He enters the avatar state to physically fracture the continent, using every ounce of his elemental power to push the land masses apart into 4 separate nations, forcing a physical separation to keep the peace. And this is where we give his canon death scene massive emotional weight. As he's tearing the earth apart in the avatar state, desperate armies are firing arrows and bending elements at him from all sides. This is exactly how he ends up laying on that smoky battlefield. The season ends with that beautifully remastered high-budget scene of Juan breathing out his final breath, apologizing to Rava that he couldn't bring peace. Rava tells him that they will be together through all of his lifetimes. And the final frame of the season cuts to the crying of a baby born to the newly isolated air nomads, the second avatar, inheriting a completely scattered, broken world. To me, a prequel like that is the perfect way to give fans a fresh, lore-accurate story that expands the universe without stepping on the original show's toes. But I want to know what you guys think. What would you add to this Pangea prequel pitch? Does this timeline fix work for you? Or is there a different era of the Avatar history that you would rather see brought to life? Drop your theories and critiques in the comments below. Let's talk about it. And hey, if you love this breakdown and want to make sure you don't miss any upcoming deep dives, definitely hit that subscribe button right now. While you're at it, if you missed out on any of my other media essays, go check out my video on how Ned Leeds fits into the Spider-Man Brand New Day era as far as those movies go, or my breakdown on the Batman franchise strategy. Thank you guys for watching. Keep the conversations going in the comments. I'm Peter, and I'll see you next time.